improve, conserve that same land. There is need to unlock innovations to break trade-offs and shift the frontier towards sustainable developments. Yes, we have highlighted a number of challenges which the world is facing today. Chief amongst them is climate change. We are all aware of the growing and ever-growing food insecurity. We are all aware of the ever-growing human population on Earth. But the big question are we able to feed that incremental rate of growth in population? How best can we make sure that we preserve our environment to sustain the ever-growing population on Earth? And it is key that as we do that, as we accelerate economic growth, as we accelerate a number of initiatives that are meant to take countries to another level in terms of socio-economic development, we are cognizant of the need to maintain and sustain our environment. Yes, big questions around the possibility of low carbon economies have been asked. Are they possible? Is it something that's a dream? Can nations really become low carbon economies and at the same time attaining macroeconomic goals and targets? Yes, it's possible. Why do I say so? With the novel ideas that are emerging around how best we can leverage technology, how best we can leverage smart energy, how best we can make sure that we begin to reverse some of the effects and pressures that mankind continue to exert on the environment. There is a huge possibility to sustain our environment. There is a huge possibility to unlock that extra potential in us to make sure that, yes, as we drive our economies, we are also making sure that we sustain the environment. Just to give a visual impression in terms of the trade-off that I've highlighted earlier on relating to the economic and environmental trade-off that we are all aware of, the big question that I want us to take home is, what is it we can do to make sure that as we drive towards attainment of economic targets, let's say by 2030, or in line with national visions, we are also making sure that we are accelerating efforts around environmental quality. So there is need to unlock that innovative box. There is need for us to bring in new and novel initiatives that as we maximize and optimize food production, we are cognizant of the need to make sure that we are doing that in a sustainable manner. We are doing that in a way that sustains the environment. There is need to unlock creativity, know-how, and harness technology and financial resources towards making sure that we create societies that are able to attain, if not surpass, sustainable development. And there are exciting researches, again, that are being done at global level, at country level, in terms of what new innovative ideas can be implemented by countries, by communities, to make sure that we sustain the environment that we live in. Fellow colleagues, as we ponder on the question that are we doing enough to protect our climate, to protect our planet? Again, the other question that I posed earlier on, what can we do more? Yes, there are a lot of options. Yes, there are a lot of alternatives, initiatives that are already working to protect our planet. And a lot, again, is awash in literature in terms of some of the practical activities that we can do. And as alluded earlier on by our principal, again, there is need for us to begin to consider a lot of practical initiatives. The need to make sure that we minimize carbon emissions, the need to make sure that we recycle wastes, we conserve water. Again, we are all aware of the ever-growing water scarcity in parts of Africa, across different parts of the world. There is so much need for us as mankind to begin to consider a lot of low-hanging quick wins that are friendly to the environment. Quick wins that make sure that, yes, as we promote consumption of fish, for example, that is done in a manner that sustains fish species, that should be done in a manner that makes sure that future generations will be able to enjoy benefits of quality life. But again, one key thing that I want to highlight, yes, there are key principles underpinning ecological restoration. It's not a one-man band. It's not just the duty of governments to make sure that we restore and sustain environment, but you and I have a role to play. The business community, researchers, academia, they have all big roles to play in terms of ecological restoration. So there is need for a multi-stakeholder approach that as we discuss issues around restoring our environment, we are cognizant of the multidisciplinary nature to achieve environmental sustainability. For us to say come 2030, we are saying India has improved in terms of the rate of biodiversity loss. We are saying Africa is improved in terms of decelerating the rate of environmental degradation. That we are saying by come 2030 or come some more future years to come, some of the even worst affected developed countries such as Australia that lead the pack in terms of clearing natural forests to create men's habitat, we are saying to ourselves, come years to come, there's need for us to reflect and say such and such country has really done well in terms of reversing environmental degradation, in terms of restoring damaged environment, damaged ecosystems. But there is quite a lot that needs to be done also from a financing angle, from a funding perspective. Governments, communities need to come up with novel financing models that promote, that allocate resources towards restoring our ecosystems. Unless that is done, fellow colleagues, we will all look at ourselves in years to come to say we used to have these natural forests, we used to have this beautiful quality of life on earth. But again, we are saying it's possible to do more, and it's possible to do even much more for us to preserve and conserve our environment. Just a quick reflection on some of the initiatives that we're also doing from the perspective of Zimbabwe and Sub-Saharan Africa, where over the years, there has been quite a lot of, as you may be aware that, like I mentioned earlier on, that Africa is endowed with rich natural resources, and more to that, we are also blessed with a lot of highly productive arable land. And I was speaking specific for my country, Zimbabwe, where we have huge tracts of very fertile land. But again, over the past years, a lot of environmentally damaging farming practices have contributed to huge rates of erosion, huge rates of environmental degradation. But the government is coming with an exciting initiative, which we are calling Pfumvudza conservation farming, where we minimize soil disturbance, where we are saying there's need to conserve water, there's need to maintain biomass, there's need to maintain the mulch on the soil, there's need to reduce soil erosion, and at the same time optimize productivity level. And I am glad to say that I'm part of this initiative, and in my own personal projects around farming, I've embraced and fully participating in Pfumvudza conservation farming, which is a widespread country level initiative that we are also spreading across Africa to challenge fellow economies to say, yes, agriculture is the mainstay of the economy, but there are better ways to produce crops. There are better ways to produce maize. There are better ways to optimize productivity without compromising the quality of the environment. And I want to challenge fellow colleagues here to also consider changing some of the malpractices that we continue to accept on our fragile environment, on our fragile forests, on life in water. There are a lot of initiatives that are harmful to the environment, which can be done in ways that make sure that we preserve and conserve the environment for future generations. But again, more can be done. Fellow colleagues, I want to highlight that, yes, you and I have a responsibility. You may be studying accounting, you may be studying medicine, you may be studying diverse disciplines, but we all call home Mother Earth, and we have a role to play in terms of conserving the environment, in terms of restoration of our ecosystem. And just to highlight, of course, we are also seeing an accelerated growth in terms of smart and green energy. We are also seeing some very exciting improvements that are happening in some economies. But again, on a worrisome side, there are also still some harmful practices that continue to pose harm to our environment. High levels of water and air pollution, we continue to witness that. The growing levels of poverty also continue to force people to clear and deplete natural forests in search of livelihoods. All such challenges need to be reversed. And who should do that? Again, it's you and I. We have a responsibility to preserve and conserve our environment. And it's high time that we ask ourselves the big questions, and also quote from some of the exciting quotes around, don't just grow old, but grow a tree. But we are also challenging ourselves as we mark the World Environment Day to also pose the big question, are we doing enough? And what is it that we can do more? Fellow colleagues, I want to pause here and thank you as I give back the time to the facilitator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful presentation and the thought-provoking speech regarding the ecosystem and what the responsibility that we need to take. We will do our best to restore our ecosystem through the knowledge and all the various ideas that you have shared with us. Now let us go ahead with the questions, sir. The questions are there in the chat box, sir. Shall I read it for you, sir?
Sure. Yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hemalata, participant, she has asked, in India, we started ranking state performances based on SDGs goals. This week, this year, ranking released. My question to today's speaker, sir, is which indicators should be given more weightage in this, or which needs more thrust and to be achieved is first?
Thank you very much. And that's a very brilliant question. And I want to applaud India for making sure that you have such ranking across different states in terms of how well are you doing. And of course, as we are speaking about the importance of our environment, especially for current generations, for future generations, for life in water, for life in earth, I would say it's of paramount importance that, yes, I've mentioned that we have 17 Sustainable Development Goals with 169 targets. And I would really say and give more weighting towards if you recall in my presentation, I shared 6 SDGs that speak directly to environmental preservation, that speak directly to ecosystem restoration. And it would be my recommendation, just like what other nations have also adopted, to give more weighting towards targets and indicators that speak towards environmental sustainability, because like we reminded each other earlier on that during the inaugural or the first commemoration of the World Environment Day, the theme was only one Earth, and we have one Earth. Unless we are dreaming of being migrated to another planet after depleting the resources we have at our disposal, which is not possible. So we have one Earth. And today, as we mark World Environment Day, we are saying, let's restore our ecosystems. And I'm cognizant of other countries, again, that have taken a shift towards giving more weight and more resources towards indicators that speak to environmental sustainability. And I would recommend the same approach, even as you rank different states in terms of how well they are doing to preserve and conserve the environment. And again, I will throw back a question to say, are we doing enough? Yes, I know amongst the pack of different countries, there are some that are doing more, some that are doing better than others. But again, questions we should ask ourselves is what can be done better? What can be done more? And how best can we make sure that we sustain our environment? So thank you for that.
Thank you for that elaborate answer, sir. Next, another participant has answered, what can be the best solution for reuse of water? Which area where most countries lacks?
Can you come again with the last part?
What can be the best solution for reuse of water, the area where most countries lack?
Very true. I think, according to the United Nations recent report on how well nations are doing in terms of sustaining their environment, I think that there are key highlights, the key research anchored insights which speak to the growing water scarcity. And what does that mean? It knocks on each one of us to ask ourselves, we know that water is life. We need water, and we need to make sure that whatever economic and social activities we do, we are cognizant of the need to conserve and preserve water. And yes, different technology companies are busy looking at unlocking solutions towards conserving and preserving water. But again, one of the important solutions that are also being popularized is around recycling water. And there is need definitely to make sure that, yes, going forward, communities, nations, even if you reflect at what is the state of policies around conservation of water, what I can highlight is there is need, again, from a government perspective, to drive for pro-conservation policies, pro-policies that force individual households, that force people and communities to look at ways of recycling water, ways of making sure that there is an element of sustaining and conserving what we already have, what our natural environments continue to give us. And water is one such critical resource that we know that is threatened by the ever-growing effects of climate change. And there is so much need for communities, families, nations to popularize recycling and conservation of water. And I would really say, with giving specific examples from my context as Zimbabwe, where again, some innovative ideas and initiatives are beginning to be implemented around how best can households and communities recycle water, for example, for purposes of watering gardens. Can we really afford to use fresh water for watering gardens? But what can be done to used water to recycle it back so that it's usable and friendly for crops and plants? And I've seen some micro level initiatives that are already being unlocked to make sure that we balance the ever decreasing quantum of fresh water that we have, because we are all aware of the ever growing water and land pollution and air pollution, which all at one point further reduce the quality of water that we have on earth. And there's need for reconsideration of such initiatives that seek to make sure that there's optimal utilization of water and other resources that are at our disposal. So I would really say there's need from a government angle, from a private sector perspective, from a household angle, to ask yourself, yes, we use water every day, but what are the options that we have around recycling water? What is it that can be done to make sure that recycled water is also safe for specific uses, for specific purpose? And I want to pause here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a very clear answer for how to use this cycle and water, and how we can make it usable and protect our environment through water. And another participant has asked, the violations of the legal commitments undertaken by developed countries in 97 under Kyoto Protocol have gone without any serious debate. If this continues so, how could countries do cooperate with other NGOs who doesn't have any power? Developing countries just getting the fund, and what do they do with that money, and who will keep a check on this?
Yeah, that's a very exciting question, and thank you for raising that up. Like I mentioned in my opening remarks, that we are all aware that yes, we all in different professions here, and we all doing quite a lot of different activities, either as sources of our livelihoods, as forms of employment. We are all doing diverse things, even if you look at programs offered in universities. But there's one common thing that brings us together. We all share the same Mother Earth. We all share the same global village that we call home. And what does that mean? We all have a mandate and responsibility to preserve and conserve our environment. And of course, to your remarks, yes, developing countries can get funding, other emerging partners can come in to promote and support. But what I want to bring home is, before we even look at funding as an important resource towards restoring our ecosystems, I believe there's greater need to intensify efforts towards educating our communities around the importance of restoring our ecosystems today. There is need to appreciate the fact that it's not money alone, but there's need for also to intensify efforts around mindset change, to enlighten communities around the infinite nature, the finite nature of our natural resources. And there's need to raise such awareness. And I would really say, and give again an example from Zimbabwe, where we have mainstreamed environmental education into our educational curriculum, right from ECD, to make sure that as young as they may be, children begin to appreciate the need to preserve and conserve the environment. And there's need to embrace a multi-sectoral approach in terms of making sure that as we look at restoring our ecosystems, as we look at conserving our environment, as we look at how best to unlock and bring answers towards sustainable development, we are cognizant that this is a multidisciplinary area of focus. This is a multi-sectoral area of focus that require different players from the government, from the private sector, from students, from people in the community, to bring their heads, efforts, and commitments together to make sure that going forward, we know that we all take a part in terms of preserving and conserving our environments. And we applaud, of course, the UN Secretariat for making sure that, yes, we have within the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, I can really safely say all the 17 have, in a way, a direct link to the environment. But of course, the 6 that I've mentioned there, which really speak towards environmental sustainability, clearly articulate the key indicators which nations have to track. But again, I would say the responsibility of tracking and making sure that there's accountability in terms of resources allocated towards environmental initiatives. The best institutions to drive that, of course, are our local leadership, with the direct link towards national governments, to make sure that the element of accountability, the element of making sure that whatever parameters and indicators being tracked are shareable to everyone within the community, are made publicly available, to make sure that no one is left behind as we look at how well are we doing as a community, how well are we doing as a country in terms of preserving and conserving our environment. So I must say, yes, the responsibility and accountability role to push everyone toward the common action should definitely stay within, yes, our leadership, but I want to challenge each one of us connected here to say, let's not wait for governments or our leadership to be asking ourselves, what are you doing to conserve your environment? But let's ask ourselves, yes, I wake up every morning. What harmful activities to the environment should I stop? Little low-hanging initiatives like throwing litter out of your car, making use of inorganic packaging for groceries, for example. We need to stop some of the harmful practices that accelerate land, water, and air pollution. So again, I want to emphasize importance of accountability at individual level, while I'm not drawing the responsibility by our national authorities to take the mandate and honors to push everyone and force everyone to account for their environment. I may pause here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Another question, another participant, Anita Rajendran, she has posted that there are many alternative methods that are eco-friendly, but why we are practicing non-eco-friendly methods? What is the reason, sir?
Well, there may not be one answer for this particular question, but I must say, yes, as you're aware that, like I mentioned earlier on in the economic trade-off between economic targets and environmental quality, we are all aware, yes, I've mentioned of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are underpinned by 169 targets. And why do these targets exist? They are meant to force us to at least have a way of benchmarking so that at some point in future, we can be saying to ourselves, how well are we doing? What is it we need to do more? But of course, if you reflect back on our communities, sometimes you begin to ask, why do we pollute our environment, for example? Why do people dump garbage anywhere? Why do some industries continue to pollute water? Why do we see rising sea levels? Why do we see rising river siltation? Why do we see the effects of different poisonous pollutants affecting life in water? For example, we have witnessed over the past years a lot of massive death of fish. For example, the devastating effects of water pollution on crocodiles and other amphibians that we find in water. You begin to ask, who has caused that? Who is responsible for that? Again, those are big questions that may remain unanswered, but we are all aware that, yes, mankind has an obligation to look for a livelihood. Mankind, or if I can say, families need to fend for their children, need to survive, need to find alternative sources of income. So sometimes there is that mismatch between immediate benefits. For example, somebody may go and chop a tree that has taken 90 years to reach maturity, for example. Someone can chop that, convert that into little logs of firewood, just to make sure that they have firewood for their own use and firewood to sell to communities. But they're ignorant of the fact that that tree has taken maybe 90 years. Like I can give, for example, here in Zimbabwe, very exciting, gigantic trees, some which are even more than 200 years old. But you find that illegal activities by our own community members are inclined towards how can I destroy that tree for my own individual benefit. So at times, mankind, some of the illegal activities that are harmful to the environment are just driven by self-centered goals, being more self-centric, but not thinking about the future, not thinking about the role that each one of us has to play to conserve and restore our ecosystems. So my closing remark would be the need to continuously educate our communities, to catch them young, even younger children at ECD level, to infuse the responsibility for taking care of Mother Earth to our children, to make sure that as they grow up, they're cognizant that they need to preserve the environment. They need to do more to preserve the environment. And don't just grow old, grow a tree. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that clear explanation as to how we have to be responsible and how we have to keep our younger generations also responsible in keeping our environment. One last question, sir. What measures can be taken to prevent forest wildfire?
Very exciting question, and I must give a personal example on this regard. Like I mentioned, that I'm a farmer on my other part of life. I am practicing Fumbudza, the new approach to production of crops that minimizes soil disturbance, that optimize water conservation, for example. But one of the huge challenges that we face, especially if I can give an example from my country's perspective, veld fires, because Zimbabwe is in tropical savanna climate, ecological environment. We have a lot of tall trees, tall grasses, and a lot of illegal activities do happen where maybe individuals in search of other resources, they want to clear certain piece of land and they want to do that quickly through fire. Somebody can ignorantly, I'll give a personal example where we lost a season's harvest of grain to wildfire, where some unknown individuals started a fire which they failed to control, and in doing so, that fire spread throughout the village, destroying chickens, destroying maize, etc. And that's a major challenge in our communities. But again, back to your question in terms of what can be done. Well, there are a lot of initiatives which I can say at individual and community level. Number one, I'm sure you've heard of fire guards, where an individual farmer can clear the perimeter of their land to make sure that even if a fire starts in the neighborhood, it won't affect their specific field. So there's that can be done at individual or at family level. But again, at community level, the community can set up what we can call community bylaws that are meant to bring in co-created regulations, co-created rules to safeguard and preserve the community, especially around the dangers brought by wildfires. And then we can look at it from a national level, where specific laws, punishable laws by the state, can be put in place that for whoever will be found on the wrong side of the law in terms of triggering wildfires, such should be punished. Because without such punishable measures, it may be a challenge to make sure that we safeguard ourselves from wildfires. And of course, you're all aware that if you look at a continent like Africa and my country, Zimbabwe, about 69% of our population is in rural areas. And they live in communities where usually you find your thatch roofs, you find your family household, household and buildings are just in the middle of a forest, surrounded by grasses, fires, and so forth, which means the risk is quite high, especially in such setups. But that means there is so much need to put in practical measures around safeguarding communities from wildfires. There's a lot that can be done. And of course, nowadays, I've seen exciting innovations around leveraging drone technology, where some innovative companies are devising firefighting drones that can be used as reactive measures when there is a fire breakout, there is an uncontrollable wildfire. We've seen some communities, some innovative, advanced communities deploying drones that can fight the fires. But again, the need to continuously overdose communities with the knowledge and understanding of their role in conserving and preserving ecosystems, in preserving the natural environment, that cannot never be overemphasized, because with that conscience, with that enlightenment in our communities, with that enlightenment in our children, in our school-going communities, in our organizations, that enlightenment will make sure that everyone has a role and understands why we need to conserve and preserve our environment and why we need to stop forest fires. Thank you.
So thank you very much for those very clear explanation of all aspects, sir. In case if any participant want to ask questions directly to our speaker, sir, they can unmute them and ask. I think all questions has been put into the chat box itself, sir. So thank you all for the active participation. Now I request Dr. Gorak Chawla to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Bharati Darshan Government College for Women and Department of Economics, I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to our keynote speaker, Dr. Talbot Musheri, for his lecture on the account of World Environment Day. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your thought-provoking words. Wholeheartedly, I must thank our respected principal, Dr. V. Rajiv Sukumar, for her inaugural address. Thank you, madam, for your continuous guidance and support. My sincere thanks to our HOD, Madam Marceline Mary Christian, for continuous encouragement to have events like this. Thank you, madam. We are fortunate enough to have a leader like you in our department. My heartfelt congratulations to my colleague, Dr. Joel Basumatre, convener of this webinar, for his efforts to make this webinar a success. My sincere thanks to Shiv Kumar Shinde for his technical support, Madam Revati for comparing this function, and to all the faculties of Department of Economics for their continuous support to make this webinar a success. I must extend my thanks to my colleagues from this college, faculties from other college, research scholars, students, and various participants from various parts of the globe for their presence in the webinar. Thank you, one and all. Have a good day. Over to Mariti, madam.
Thank you, sir. Once again, I thank Dr. Talbot Musheri for the great presentation and answering the questions. It was pleasure, sir, to have you with us today. I also take this opportunity to thank all the participants for attending and hope that you will extend your maximum participation in restoring our ecosystem and environment. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, congratulations to
very much.
Economic Department. Marceline,
Thank you, ma'am.
it was a great event. I thank all
you,
each one
madam.
of you. Yes, thank you, the chief guest speaker from Africa. So it was nice to have you amidst us. Yeah. See you all. Looking
Thank you,
forward
ma'am.
for one such event in future.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
I
See you
request
all.
all the participants to fill the feedback link that is given in the chat box to receive your e-certificate.
Certificate, we will send another this one credentials, not the name and all. Present means?
Thank you, Dr. Talbot Mucheri. I am Marceline. Your presentation is highly informative for us. It will help our students in their near future. Excellent.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate, and I look forward to more exchange programs of this nature and learn a lot from you. We share the same one planet. We share the same Mother Earth. you and I as a responsibility. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye, sir.
Okay.
The dance is over.
Oh, you over right now. This didn't work, no. Oh God.
Ray,
Ah,
afterwards, just you call your friend and personal
Yeah.
greetings and thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, on behalf of the department
Yes,
and
yes.
your personal.
yes, yes.
So, can I talk to ma'am? Then can we wind up?
Yeah, I'll let me call. Run some recordings. Not all are recorded. Yes, madam. Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. Yes, ma'am, yes. Yeah, thank you, ma'am, thank you. It was your initiative, brother. No? Yeah, yeah. Yes, ma'am, we'll have series of such type of programs in the future also. Yeah, yeah. So, unfortunately, this YouTube streaming didn't work in between because of the network problem. YouTube streaming, no? It was working, but maybe after half it didn't work because the network got disconnected, no? Yes, like that. So fortunately, this one Google Meet was okay. Yes, madam. Yes. So thank you, madam. So we'll wind up. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, sure, ma'am. Sure. You tell the faculties. Yeah, tell ma'am. Yeah. Madam wants to talk. All. Yeah, still be here, no? Madam will.
Come in the Google Meet.
Yeah, all here. Let everybody go, no?
No, it will.
I will let others go. You just go.
How? Who got your password? You?
Google Meet only.
Girls,
Yeah.
you can leave the meeting.
Password.
No. Same. You have to get freshly. Huh?
Muslim madam இருக்காங்க.
Okay.
Hello, Muslim madam.
Sujata, tell me, Sujata.
எல்லாம் உங்க ப்ரோக்ராம் நல்லா இருந்தது. வெரி நைஸ்.
Thank you. எல்லா கிரெடிட்டும் எங்க ஸ்டாஃபுக்கு தான் போகும். என்னுடைய கான்ட்ரிபியூஷன் இதுல ரொம்ப ஒண்ணுமே கிடையாது. எல்லாமே அவங்க தான் பண்ணாங்க.
நல்ல
you,
ஸ்பீக்கரா
Sujata.
செலக்ட் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. நல்லா இருந்தது ப்ரோக்ராம்.
Thank you.
Thank you madam. Thank you.
Yeah, same. Same, sir.
Hey, he's talking.
Huh? What?
The background is talking.
Cracking? Yeah, it is still like that. I knew it was working. But
Where
it
is-
stopped streaming.
Others, Panichami and all.
Yes. Yeah. Google Meet.
Only 6% is there.
Thank you very much, Joel. It is really excellent selection.
Yeah,
The resource
I think he did.
The resource person, what you have chosen is an excellent selection, Joel.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for the appreciation, madam.
Yes.
And thanks, congratulations to everybody for doing so well, so systematic, comparer, and what is that? that Madam Marceline, you did so well in your speech.
What? I got tense when I got a call. When I got call from the principal frequently, no, I got tense then. I don't know how I read that welcome address at all. In some way or other, I managed that.
Yes, madam, yes.
Okay.
I was sweating like anything when
Yeah. I understood. I understood.
When we couldn't allow that chief guest not to enter.
Because see, this is a experience, all these things will happen. We can correct it when we are doing it continuously. Yes.
And so many people trying to enter, no?
The main thing is that maximum number of our students have registered. That is the problem.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Congratulations to everybody.
Yes. Congratulations.
Good, Joel. Very good, Joel.
Yes.
Very good efforts from your part.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Right. Shiv also, Professor Shiv Kumar Shinde also, very good effort from Dr. Palniswamy sir. Madam Revati, you did very nicely comparing the stage. And Madam also, Marceline Madam, you did very well in
got little tensed, sir.
Yes.
Everybody got tensed, I think so.
Yeah, because of the delay part.
Problem is there,
yes,
but afterwards,
yes.
Once that speaker starts, everything disappears, Revati. Really, the comparing is very good, Revati. Modulation, voice modulation, everything is good.
Yes.
I thank Shivakumar and Panichami too. Uma, I express my thanks to you, Uma, because you take care of that media, press media.
And with regard to
Chavla, thank you very much for your excellent vote of thanks. You have covered everything.
Thank you, madam.
That thanks we have to give to Mangai ma'am also, ma'am. It was she who actually suggested this, create a new link. She posted into the chat box in YouTube, ma'am. Then I told Shiv Kumar sir, I called him and I told that you create a new link. So we have to thank Mangai ma'am only for this.
Yes, I will tell.
It was because of her only she could do this.
Called me. She only called me and told that. Then I immediately called the Panichami. I told him. Then he told me that
are we going to issue certificates to the participants?
Definitely. That's why you have asked them to fill up the feedback link. No, we have to give.
Yes. We'll have to fill up the certificate in accordance. I'm trying to do such a way that once they submit the form, automatically it will generate the certificate.
You design the certificate, Joel, and that has to be get concurrence from our principal. That's what she told me. Okay. And then we will show and get concurrence. Afterwards, we will.
Signature and all has to be there, no? Your signature, principal. And what about? Is there any possibility of transferring some amount of money to him?
I will ask her.
No.
I will ask her and let you know, Joel, definitely, because he took a lot of efforts. No, definitely it has to be remunerated. I will talk to her and let you know, Joel.
Okay, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, tomorrow.
I don't know how to transfer also. We can find out how to do it. Anybody who has idea, no? Transferring.
GPay will not work. GPay, you are telling that is within country,
Google Pay, no?
Yes.
That might work, that might work. Let's see, we'll find out, madam. Okay,
yes, I will ask our madam how much we have to pay or how much they will contribute from the college side. Then based on that, we will decide. Okay?
Yes.
Monday.
Yes.
You put a lot of efforts. You looks very tired. So take rest. You three people, Shiva and yourself, Panichami, take rest. Okay? Then Monday
Okay, ma'am.
Bye, sir. Bye.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Joel.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all.
Okay, madam. It was a grand success.
Hello, ma'am.
Once college open, we will celebrate this.
Yes, definitely, Joy. Definitely, Chavla. Very grand party for it.
Yes.
That is the reopening party as well as the webinar party.
Yes, madam. Yes.
It has to be our first successful completion of first
that
webinar, no?
International webinar.
Yes, yes.
yes.
Ma'am, Uma ma'am wants to talk something.
சொல்லுமா உமா சொல்லுமா.
மேம் அந்த நம்ம ரெக்கார்ட் பண்றோம்ல மேம், அதுக்கு வந்து பிரின்சிபல் வந்து ஃபேஸ் காமிக்காமயே தானே பேசுனாங்க, கேமரா ஆன் பண்ணல. சோ ரிகார்டிங் தட் எப்படி அது நம்ம குடுக்கணுமா அந்த கிளிப்?
அது ரெண்டுத்தையுமே அனுப்பி விட்டுருமா, அவங்க கேட்டாங்க வேணும்னா அவங்க கட் பண்ணி அனுப்பிக்கிட்டோம்.
அவங்க கட் பண்றதுனாலுமே பாத்தீங்கன்னா வெறுமனே அந்த மேமோட அந்த ரவுண்ட்ல அந்த இனிஷியலோட வர்றதுதான் இருக்கு. இட்ஸ் ஓகேவா?
அவங்களோட போட்டோ இருக்குது இல்ல உமா, அதுல அது போதும் கூட. நம்ம அவங்க அப்படித்தான் கேட்டாங்க, நான் வேணா கேட்கவா அவங்கள? இன்னும் அனுப்பலையா உமா?
இல்ல இப்பதான் மேம் அதை நீ எடிட் பண்ணணும்.
ரைட் ரைட், ஓகே ஓகே.
நடுவுல வந்து ஏதோ ஒரு பொண்ணு ஆன் பண்ணி வச்சிட்டால அவளோட ஆடியோ.
அதான் அந்த சிவரஞ்சனி ஏதோ ஒண்ணு.
இன்டரப்ட் அண்ட் டெல் ஹர். சோ அதெல்லாம் சேர்ந்து வந்திருக்கு. சோ அத கொஞ்சம் கட் பண்ணிட்டு ஒரு 1.5 minute I have to reduce.
ஓகே 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 ஓகே.
ஜோயல் சாரும் ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணாரு, அவர்கிட்ட இருந்தாச்சுன்னா கிளிப் எது பெட்டரா இருக்குன்னா இல்ல.
அவரு ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணது வந்து ரிசோர்ஸ் பர்சனோட இதுதான் ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணாரு. நான் வந்து ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ண மாதிரி தெரியல.
We need one 1.5 minute recording, sir. That will
1.5 minute.
Any nice part, yes.
Yeah, we have that.
Okay.
We have to give it to media, Joel.
Yeah.
For that.
So shall I send to Uma madam?
You send it to Uma.
You send me. Okay ma'am, அதுதான். எல்லாரும் இருக்கும்போது கேட்டுட்டா யார் ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணாங்க என்னன்னு கிடைச்சிரும்.
ஆமா, கரெக்ட்.
Okay.
Bye everyone.
Okay. Bye everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you ma'am.
Thank you ma'am.
I extend my special thanks to each and everyone from our department.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Okay. Bye, Joel. Bye.
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 Ended, yeah. Thank you.
Excellent.
This is
yours.
No, not mine.
Who expected that in between there will be interruption in internet? We are not expected. If that
anyhow there is no board show.
Yes, of course.
We manage
Some recordings are there. This is of madam.
Development economy, social development program and measure.
Hello, madam. Yes, madam. Yes, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, it is. I think it is done. We have stopped it, madam. Yeah. Because actually that streaming didn't work from middle, madam. Yeah. When did you see it? Okay. Alright. Yeah, I can delete that. Don't worry. Okay. We thought that streaming was not working, no? Link that Google one.